Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Caitlin Burke. The world mourns today after the confirmation of Kayla Mueller's death. She's the fourth American hostage to be killed by ISIS. New details are emerging about her time in captivity and efforts by the U.S. to bring her home. She was the last known U.S. hostage being held by ISIS. Today, the family and friends of Kayla Mueller remember the compassionate, brave, and spunky girl she was as they try and accept her death.
Kayla has touched the heart of the world. The world grieves with us.
The 26-year-old was captured by ISIS militants while she was working to help war refugees in Syria. In a newly released letter to her parents, she wrote that she was being treated with respect and kindness. She also said, quote, "By God plus your prayers, I've felt tenderly cradled in free fall. I've been shown in darkness light, plus have learned that even in prison, one can be free." ISIS claims Mueller was killed during recent Jordanian airstrikes. They sent her family photographic evidence over the weekend that she was dead. U.S. officials say it hasn't been possible to determine when or how she actually died. Some officials say they do have reason to believe that she may have been given over to an ISIS commander, possibly by forced marriage. President Obama says the U.S. did everything possible to save her except pay a ransom. He confirmed for the first time on Tuesday that he made a risky rescue attempt to save Mueller and other ISIS hostages. U.S. forces were unable to find them.
It's as tough as anything that I do, having conversation with parents who understandably want, by any means necessary, for their children to be safe.
Meanwhile, ISIS is clearly growing stronger. A new report suggests 20,000 foreign fighters from around the world are going to Syria to join the terrorist group. Here in the U.S., the government continues to debate the use of military force.
My concern is that the president truly does not understand the nature of this danger. He doesn't understand that this is a guerrilla war to try to defeat us by 1,000 cuts, that they're going to undermine us piece by piece, little by little, until finally we can't do anything anymore.
Experts warn it's only a matter of time before ISIS poses a direct threat to the U.S. itself.
At least 3,400 of those foreign fighters joining terrorist organizations come from Western nations. It's one reason Australia has been cracking down on homegrown terrorism. Tuesday, counterterrorism officials arrested two men planning to carry out an attack in Western Sydney. Authorities say they seized a video that shows one of the suspects kneeling in front of an Islamic State flag with a knife and machete while threatening to commit, quote, violent acts. Police also seized homemade ISIS flags, a machete, and a hunting knife.
President Obama says the news media overstates the risk of terrorism. In an interview with the website Vox, the president said he doesn't blame the media for that because it goes for sexy stories like crime and plane crashes, and terrorism falls into that category.
Critics say comments like that prove President Obama is not taking terrorism seriously enough. Former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore says the president's actions even look like appeasement. Gilmore once chaired a congressional panel investigating terrorism and weapons of mass destruction. He's blasting Obama recently for blaming Christians for the crusades of ancient history, when the real threat facing our world now is radical Islamic terrorism.
Why should we be debating right now the crusades of 1,000 years ago and whether Christians were right, wrong, or indifferent in those days? What is important is today, and standing strong and not allowing the Christian community to be scapegoated or used as a vehicle for some kind of alternative message of weakness or vacillation.
Gilmore told CBN News the president's crusade comments diverts attention away from ISIS and the true danger that terrorists are posing to the United States.
Meanwhile, in Ukraine, fighting is intensifying ahead of peace talks. More than 20 people are reported dead after a shelling by pro-Russian rebels. 19 were Ukrainian soldiers. Overnight in the city of Donetsk, 5 people were killed. Ukrainian's president says he wants all foreign troops to withdraw and is moving to close the border.
A longtime advisor to President Obama says that he deceived Americans for years by claiming he opposed same-sex marriage. Former Obama strategist David Axelrod says in a new book that Obama actually supported gay marriage all along. He says the president pretended to oppose it because of fears from Christian black leaders who would oppose him if his true beliefs became public. But Obama tells BuzzFeed.com that Axelrod has it wrong. He said, quote, "I think David is mixing up my personal feelings with my position on the issue."
Alabama's gay marriage battle is heating up. Tuesday, a woman was arrested outside a courthouse for offering to perform a wedding ceremony for a same-sex couple. Monday was supposed to be the first day same-sex couples in the state were legally allowed to marry. A federal court struck down the state's voter-approved ban on gay marriage last month.
And Sunday, the state's Chief Justice made a move to stop judges from issuing marriage licenses to gay couples. The move has drawn the attention and backlash from the Supreme Court. Our Mark Martin has more.
Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice Roy Moore ordered state judges Sunday night to refuse marriage licenses to homosexual couples, citing a state ban.
Well, I think a redefinition of the word marriage is not found within the powers designated to the federal government.
Now, more than 50 Alabama state judges have refused to issue licenses to same-sex couples. Moore said he only has the authority over the state judges who issue marriage licenses, and he questions how federal judges define marriage in the future.
Do they stop with one man, or one woman and one woman? Or do they go to multiple marriages? Or do they go to marriages between men and their daughters, or women and their sons?
Dr. Bradley Jacob of the Regent University School of Law told CBN News Moore's scenario is a possibility.
The reality is, if you say that the Constitution forces the states to give up the institution of marriage as a husband and a wife raising children in the complementarity of a man and a woman, if you say the states can't do that anymore, they must allow two men, two women, it's very hard to see where you now draw the line.
The Alabama battle has drawn the attention of the United States Supreme Court, which says same-sex marriage can move forward as planned. However, Justices Clarence Thomas and Antonin Scalia criticized their colleagues for refusing to delay same-sex marriage in Alabama. They say it gives the impression that the justices already have decided they will declare gay marriage legal under the Constitution. The Supreme Court is expected to rule on same-sex marriage in June. Jacob says the High Court's Alabama ruling could be sending a message.
One of the most negative factors for those who want to see traditional marriage upheld is the way the Supreme Court has dodged this issue and allowed lower courts to force gay marriage on many states. Every time the Supreme Court ducks the issue and lets gay marriages begin in another state, I think they make it harder and harder to go back and just say, no, we're going to wipe all that out and we're going to stop doing those gay marriages.
Homosexual marriages continue in about a dozen Alabama counties. And while it's a time to celebrate for same-sex couples, for others in the state, like Reverend James Henderson, the former executive director of the Christian Coalition of Alabama, it's a season of sadness.
Well, I'm grieved because I know it's not God's way. I'm like the 81% of the people in this state who voted for the constitutional amendment that clearly states that marriage is only between one man and one woman.
Mark Martin, CBN News.
An Arkansas House panel is proposing a bill that would protect a business owner's decision to refuse service to a gay person if that conflicts with their religious beliefs. Representatives from statewide, municipal, county, and school board organizations worry the measure will encourage frivolous lawsuits against local governments.
Christian bakers from Oregon could be facing massive fines as punishment for standing up for their biblical beliefs. Back in 2013, Sweet Cakes by Melissa declined to bake a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. At the time, same-sex marriage was not even legal in Oregon, but the Oregon Bureau of Labor has ruled Aaron and Melissa Klein violated the civil rights of that gay couple. The Kleins report on their Facebook page they'll find out what fines they face on March 10th. They could face $150,000 in fines, and that could force them into bankruptcy. Still, the Kleins have posted a message saying, "Even though it seems as if we are being thrown into the lion's den, we will continue to stand for the Lord. Our faith will not waver. We fully trust in our Heavenly Father. He is able to deliver us from this, but even if He doesn't, We are not going to compromise on God's truth in order to appease man.
Members of Congress are preparing to vote on a bill that would approve the Keystone oil pipeline. The House could vote on a Senate version of the legislation today, and it's expected to pass. But the president has already vowed to veto it. Some say this bill also has a sticking point that may cause problems for some conservative Republicans. It includes a provision saying climate change is not a hoax. And the president says he wants to ensure the pipeline would not exacerbate global warming.
A total boycott of a rogue nation, but it's not the one you'd think. How Europeans are calling Israel a Nazi state and then acting just like Nazis themselves. We've got the story next. There's a growing trend in Europe, a grassroots move against doing business with Israel. One of the goals of the Nazis was to rid Germany of any trace of Jews. They called it Judenfrei, or free of Jews.
Now some warn the same anti-Semitic spirit has returned today in a different form. It's a drive to erase any sign of Israel from Europe. They call it Zionist Frei. Our Dale Hurd has been looking into that.
Across Europe, more cities and regions are trying to become Israel-free zones, free of the taint of what Israel critics call an apartheid state. In England, the Leicester City Council voted last year to boycott goods made in Israeli settlements in the West Bank. It's as if cities like Leicester want to cleanse themselves of Israeli impurity, and that reminds some of a very dark chapter in Europe's history. The Nazi drive to purify Germany of any trace of the Jews. The city of Leicester declined our request for an on-camera interview and issued this statement. Leicester City Council condemns anti-Semitism and all forms of racism and discrimination in the strongest possible terms. This is not a boycott of Israel by Leicester. The motion relates specifically to produce originating from illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank. While Leicester city government doesn't think it's being anti-Semitic, Jeffrey Kaufman, the former head of Leicester's progressive Jewish community, disagrees.
But the fact that the city council have chosen to pick on Israel exclusively, in my view, makes it anti-Semitic, because the city council have exclusively dealt with the Palestinian-Israel situation to the exclusion of any other international events that are happening at the moment, or any other countries.
Other cities across Europe have gone further than Leicester. Last summer during the Gaza conflict, the Irish town of Kinvara went completely Israel-free. No Israeli products in stores or restaurants. It's part of a movement called BDS, Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions.
5, 6, 7, 8!
And it's all aimed at Israel. Israeli musicians and actors have had their performances disrupted, like this event at London's Globe Theatre. This London Ahava cosmetics store was picketed until it finally closed down. Ahava is an Israeli company, but the BDS forces will boycott any company that has dealings with Israel. The Israel boycott movement says it's not anti-Semitic, but they don't boycott any other nations. Israel is a democracy. There are plenty of cruel dictatorships around the world they could boycott, but they don't.
No other country, just Israel.
Richard Millett tracks the BDS movement through his website.
They won't be calling for boycotts of America, who they don't agree with, or British government policy that they don't agree with, before we get into China, Russia, Syria, Saudi Arabia. There is no boycott, Dale. So you answer why.
We support the Intifada!
The BDS movement is taking over college campuses in Europe and America. Ronnie Fraser is a college lecturer and founding director of the Academic Friends of Israel. He warns that the next generation of leaders is being brainwashed, that Israel is the worst nation on earth.
Students are being fed a diet of Israel is a racist state, Israel is a Zionist state, Israel equals the Nazis.
Fraser sued his own union for institutional anti-Semitism, for promoting an academic boycott of Israel.
Their agenda is delegitimization of the state of Israel, destruction of Israel, get rid of Israel.
While the Israel boycott movement says it's not anti-Semitic, according to the definition set down by the European Union, it is. The EU says anti-Semitism can include denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, e.g. by claiming that the existence of the State of Israel is a racist endeavor, and by applying double standards to Israel. It should probably not be surprising that more Britons now dislike Israel than Iran, and that new polling shows that more than half of British Jews say they have no future in the UK, and 1 in 4 have thought about leaving. Jonathan Saserdati is with the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism that conducted the polling. He says it reveals that British Jews are beginning to feel unwelcome.
We asked in our survey, in the past 2 years, I have witnessed or experienced more anti-Semitism than in previous years. We were asking the Jewish respondents if that was the case, and 56% agreed that they had seen more in the past 2 years.
When you see a Jewish-owned shop, whether it be Israeli or not, it's still a Jewish-owned shop. When you see it targeted for boycotting and violence against the store itself, you can't not help think, but this is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany, that they were boycotting Jewish-owned shops.
In Germany, Nazi persecution of the Jews also began with a boycott in April 1933. Some of those boycotting Israel may truly feel that they're only trying to help Palestinians. But to Jews, the goal of the BDS movement is a destination similar to Nazi Germany. Mandy Blumenthal is with the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism.
People want to see the total destruction of Israel. When people say from the river to the sea, that's what it means.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
The Nazis would call it Judenfrei, free of Jews. Dale Hurd, CBN News, reporting from Leicester and London.
Up next, you want to keep your memory sharp as you get older? We're going to show you why researchers say chocolate might help. Chocolate is a favorite of people around the world, and as most people know, chocolate comes from cocoa beans. But there's something you may not know.
Researchers at Columbia University recently reported that a key ingredient in cocoa could sharpen the memories of older people. But that doesn't mean you can plan on overdosing on chocolate. Lori Johnson explains.
The antioxidants found in dark chocolate called cocoa flavanols, which come from cocoa beans, appear to reverse the subtle memory loss that comes with normal aging. That's according to a Columbia University study. In just 3 months, test subjects regained the memory strength of a person 25 years younger.
What we found is that 50 or 60-year-olds who consumed a high cocoa flavanol diet had an improvement in memory, and it seemed to originate from a particular part of the brain that we know is targeted by normal aging.
Unfortunately, the cocoa flavanols had no effect on a different part of the brain targeted by Alzheimer's disease. The study required participants to consume a drink containing 450 milligrams of cocoa flavanols, equaling what's in 7 dark chocolate bars. With that in mind, is it a good idea or not to eat a lot of dark chocolate every day in order to reverse the natural memory loss that comes with aging?
It is true that cocoa flavanols are found in chocolate, however, only in very small amounts. Consuming a lot of chocolate is simply bad for your health, so categorically not.
Most chocolate is high in sugar and calories. The amount of cocoa flavanols in a typical dark chocolate bar is 53 milligrams. Milk chocolate only contains 13.
But one of the things I find appealing about the study is that we're essentially suggesting that lifestyles, diet, can actually ameliorate a normal process, which I find appealing because it means we don't necessarily need a pharmaceutical agent.
The study only followed 37 people, but based on the results, Columbia plans to replicate it in a larger study. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
think I have a pretty healthy cocoa diet. What about you?
I would think so too. Glad it wasn't in the house last night, though. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Students at Regent University are currently in third place in the national It's Up to Us competition. It raises awareness about America's growing $18 trillion debt.
CBN reached out to Regent graduate student Juliana Melton to find out how she would like to see government officials react to the campaign.
We really want them to take notice because we're competing with 47 other schools and we're all saying enough is enough. You guys, both sides need to come together. This isn't political, but this is national debt and it's not fair for future generations to be left with this and to have to pay it off. It's so that they need to balance the budget and come up with solutions that'll help our generation.
Now, if you'd like to help Regent University, log on to cbnnews.com to learn how you can take the pledge.
That's it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com.
Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Bye-bye.